Welcome to the Growth Concept Podcast, hosted by myself, Keone Upton, where we explore actionable insights, inspiring stories, and tools to help you become your best self. Today's episode dives deep into a challenge we all face, the attention crisis. In a world designed to distract us, how do we stay focused on what truly matters? To help us understand this, we are joined by Winn, a renowned expert in artificial intelligence, the attention economy, and cybersecurity with over 40 years of experience. Winn is an author and has written the amazing book, The Art of Science of Meta War. Welcome to episode 20. This episode is a milestone for the growth concept. Our first ever international episode with Winn. Winn joins us all the way from United States to share his wisdom and strategies to reclaim your focus in a noisy world. Like he says,
are you using the technology for your benefit, or have you become addicted to it and following its terms and conditions as dictated by big tech and ad tech?
Where do you see this all going in the next 5-10 years with the whole attention crisis and the feedback?
Geez, I'm worried about the next 12 months.
If this is your first time here, thank you so much for tuning in and welcome. I started this podcast with one goal in mind: to create a space for individuals seeking personal growth, inspiration, and practical advice. I've found with entering the real world and studying, there's so much uncertainty and a lack of guidance for most people out there, or just too much information, and it can be so overwhelming. My mission is to bring on experts, innovators, and everyday heroes who can share their lessons and inspire change to help you unlock your full potential all in one place. To me, this isn't just a self-help podcast. It's about building a community of growth and like-minded people who are ready to challenge themselves, support each other, and chase their dream realities. As I document my own journey through my learnings, potential future businesses, and ideas. Subscribe if you haven't already if you want to join the journey and community of growth. That's enough from me. Let's get into it. Enjoy this episode.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Nobody's an expert in AI. Everybody's still guessing.
Winn, I want to know, what is it you do and why do you do it?
I have been involved in cybersecurity now for 42 years. Yeah, 42 years. And originally did some design work, DoD, Defense Department, UK, all the usual Five Eyes groups way back when. And then started writing books, and then wrote Information Warfare, which actually brought me out to Perth many, many years ago, working out there with your military and it's a Edith Cowan University. So I was doing some of that then, and stayed involved with the InfoWar and the military government thing for a while. Began a security awareness company and needed to pay the bills, of course. And talking about the InfoWar wasn't exactly paying all the bills. And kept going, and things have been working out very, very well, fortunately. Wrote a whole bunch of books on time-based security. Some are technical, analog network security. And then about 8 years ago, I had a lot of free time suddenly, and started investigating neuroscience and how it could be applied to whether it was social engineering, better network defense, kind of looking down that whole world. And then realized that reality distortion, reality manipulation, we're all living in some sort of not simulation, but distorted reality that's being created by big tech, by politics, by, the phrase is, he who controls the technology controls the narrative.
Exactly.
And as a result, I have been spending the last 4 years heavily involved with cognitive defense, cognitive security, too much information, and how to get people to be able to better coexist with the technology that we've created.
Yeah, so essentially you're surrounded by the more of the military cybersecurity of things.
No, I was. That was a long time ago. I got away from them in the early 2000s because it was
Mm.
no fun anymore. And if it wasn't fun, I didn't want to do it. So I sold all that stuff and went off and did something else. And now the issue of cognitive defense certainly is a national security issue for many of us, but it's also an enterprise security issue. It's a personal security issue. It's a personal privacy issue. And how much of your reality is what you've created, or how much of it is what has been created for you and you have fallen into and accepted it.
Yeah. What's cognitive defense?
Cognitive defense is the defense of the mind. We have network defense that defends networks, computer and information security, protects the data, protects the networks, all of the technical bits. Cognitive defense is protecting, number one, the brain, the processes, that how we think. We have an immune system. We have a mental immune system, just like we have a biological immune system. And to a certain extent, cyber has a little bit of it, but not as much as we'd like. And then the second part of the cognitive immune system is the infrastructure that goes into building the future versions of the metaverse as we evolve into Web 3.0. And that's where some of the huge privacy issues are going to be coming out. And we need to be engineering those correctly, technically and policy-wise. What is going to change is the big one from a privacy standpoint is personally identifiable information. PII is going to lose a huge amount of its value as we get more involved in these immersive and feedback networks, that it's personally identifiable behavior, meaning how do you react to any given stimulus? Is it music? Is it a color? Is it sound? Is it where the box is placed on the shelves? How do you react to that? And once the people that are feeding you that information, and you give them all of your biological data back to them, through the next generation of iPods, or a couple generations down the line that are coming, you're giving them your soul.
I find it so scary with the way social media is going, with them knowing what you're looking at. And when you be talking about something and then that will come up on your feed on Instagram, TikTok or something like that, like the metaverse is so scary on where it's going.
And the more feedback that you give them, in August of 2023, Apple patented a new, to be coming out, earbuds. And they have 38 biosensors in them. That'll do.
What does that mean?
That means it'll do brain scanning, EKG, biological responses, blood pressure, temperature, how you react, how your entire body reacts to external stimulus.
Wow.
And once that is in play out there, your personally identifiable behavior, they know you better than you know yourself.
Wow. So that leads on to, what do you feel your true mission is right now?
My mission has really come down to trying to get populations, the enterprise, education, and nations to recognize that cognitive defense is a national security issue as well as it is an enterprise security issue, and one for individuals. And we need to work at this in all of these different areas, because right now, the people with the tech, the people with the power, they're the ones that are already using it. And we're already getting addicted to it all. It already exists. Every time a little 8-year-old girl gets a like, she gets a dose of digital opioids into her brain, some serotonin. And what does that say? I want more. I want more. Same thing with ad placements. Oh, you looked at this thing, therefore you want these 23 versions of it as well. And it's that whole feedback loop of monitoring your keystrokes, monitoring where you go, your online behavior, and then soon enough, monitoring your biologics.
What was the turning point for you that made you realize that this is not a game anymore, it's super serious?
When I began this project roughly 4 years ago, I thought I was going to be looking at the technical aspects of it all.
Mm.
And okay, there's a network here, and there's a cloud server, and then there's going to be an edge server, and we're going to do rendering and all of that kind of stuff that we hear about. And I did 11 talks in a period of a week in the Netherlands, and I use the Netherlands because they, number one, good friends, but also they're brutally honest with me. And with all the feedback I got, they said, "You're missing the humanity. Where's the humanity?" And I went back and revisited it, and then started looking at we as carbon-based systems, silicon-based systems, and how are they meshing together? Where are the disconnects between the computers, the AI, the networks, all the technology, and humans? And the realization really finally hit when we were created, when we evolved to whatever terminology anybody wants, roughly 50,000 years ago in our current form. We were built to defend against lions and tigers and bears, oh my, and don't drink the dirty water. And if it tastes awful, it'll probably kill you. And what we learned over the years. We, as a human species, were never designed to coexist with technology. We were not designed to coexist with too much information, this incredible onslaught of endless stimulus into our sensory systems, which creates the fundamental number one problem, in my opinion, which is not misinformation, disinformation, or any of that. It's too much information and not having the mental immune system defenses built in to counter too much information that's hitting us all the time.
How do we strengthen that immune system to really crack down on that?
There is no binary answer.
There's no answer.
There is no perfect answer whatsoever. I mean, networks are not perfectly secure. They never will be. Humans are, well, we're pretty bad at following rules and adhering to things. The thing that a lot of people will tell you is we need to increase critical thinking, make it more a part of our daily lives. And that's absolutely correct. However, I want to get higher up because people are not going to really consider critical thinking either, number one, because they have to. It's either in their job, it's in school, or it's in someplace else where it's mandated. Or they're going to have to want to for another reason. So at the very top of it, we have this, okay, back to this onslaught, TMI. Instead of critical thinking, what do you think should be the first step that should occur?
Definitely filtering out the amount of information.
Right, exactly. And I call it critical ignoring.
Critical ignoring. Right, okay.
Critical ignoring. You end up with some crap from the Kardashians. Do you really give a shit? I mean, why would you allow yourself to be dragged down those rabbit holes? All of the information that's coming at us is part of the attention economy, trying to grab our attention, grab our time, because that's how big tech makes its money, from our time on their platform or clicking, I'm going to buy that crap from China or whatever it is. And I bought a lot of crap during COVID. Yeah, that looks good. I'll buy that. I'll buy that. And okay, I wasted some money during COVID. But critically ignoring me is like when you're getting a stream of stuff on whatever platform you're in, a news feed, when you're on scrolling TV channels. What addicts you? What is it that immediately compels you to go waste your time?
It's that,
or do you have
dopamine or those short videos?
Yeah, and I don't get that. As an older generation, short videos, there's no content. That is just noise. For me, it's just noise. It's like, why do I care about somebody going, ooh, ha, ha, for 6 seconds? WTF, mate? I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
I'm really much more interested in, I like succinct messaging under 1 minute to give me a context. And then longer ones I spend more time because I'm, engineering science kind of guy. I get into that stuff and can go down the rabbit holes. But I have to be very careful what rabbit holes I go down because, bam, we can all get pulled all over the place. So critically ignoring and then weighting your importance. And in the book, there are a number of suggestions about what do I care about? How much time do I have to apply to this? Don't forget, you only have 168 hours in a week. How many rabbit holes do you need to get sucked down to not to sleep? Happens to a lot of people. Or how long are you going to allow yourself to be immersed in a video game before you get pulled out of that reality and go realize I haven't eaten or peed in 6 hours? And that happens to some people that get addicted to that technology.
So you hear all these people going on detoxes and stuff, and they finish the 2-week detox, but they go back to the same patterns they were already in before the detox because the environment isn't changing, which is so like crazy to think that
Absolutely.
it's that bad.
Detox, I could not do a 2-week detox. That would kill me. Absolutely. But critical ignoring of what do I want to pay attention to? Okay, 2 days after New Year's. Okay, business is on, business is slow, but something may be coming up. Who knows? And I just want to scroll. Is it anything I really need to do? Like today, if it didn't come up in my feed, I would have forgotten about it. So it comes up in the feed. If 2 weeks of detox, I wouldn't have made it here. Because my calendar, and again, this is this balance of, are you using the technology for your benefit, or have you become addicted to it and following its terms and conditions as dictated by big tech and ad tech? They designed it that way. And part of the battle is critical ignoring. And then you asked, how do we get this started? There was a little bit of history here for your viewers. And if you guys don't know me, I've studied a lot of history over the years. In 1961, it was after World War II, obviously, and an early Cold War. We were all worried about spies, Manchurian candidates, infiltrating, and people being brainwashed, and all of those. It was a very common kind of thing that came largely out of what the Third Reich had done and what had happened in early Stalin days from 53, 53 on for a while. And they began some research into how do we fix somebody who has been brainwashed. So Professor James McGuire back in 61 wrote a series of papers, and it was called the inoculation theory. Can the brain, the mental immune system, be inoculated against disinformation, misinformation, brainwashing, intimidation, all of those things that influence us badly? And he developed some ideas, and this was all done with the military and what have you. Fast forward, it was ignored largely outside of the advertising industry, because the advertising industry, their job is to suck you in and get you to finally, well, in the old days, credit card, money, thing, but today just press that button. And it wasn't until roughly 2011, two researchers out of Holland got a project going at Cambridge University called the Misinformation Project. And they wanted to find out, could the work of McGuire, could it be put to use against the general population so people can inoculate themselves against, and they were focusing on misinformation, disinformation for a lot of this, without going down that rabbit hole of what that means, but that was their focus. And they found that the brain will actually increase the strength of its own immune system if you don't teach it right, wrong, left, right, God, no God, none of the details. You teach the process of what is used to manipulate you, and teach people to create their own misinformation, disinformation, too much information, create those environments that they are subject to from bad actors. And they found that after one game, one 7-minute game, the initial response was a 51% increase in the ability for people to be able to make better, cogent judgments. And through repetition, obviously, and through various types of gaming techniques, This appears to be one of the strongest ways out there to get people to take a small pause. It's like little kids. A lot of your folks, I mean, either you were a little kid once, don't remember you were a little kid, or your parents do, whatever. But we all know. We got all upset and go, count to 10, calm down, think about it, take a breath. Now, how do you feel? That pause allows the human mental immune system to go from gut reaction, that ephemeral gut reaction of us as primates in the savannah, to turning on our thinking process.
Funny you brought that up. I read in a book, Stolen Focused, the concept of when you're trying to detach from your device in a period of immersion, like you're focusing on a specific task over a period of time, you actually turn your phone off. Why do you do that? You can turn it back on if you want, but it allows that second, that process for your brain to be like, oh, is this truly productive, when you have that urge to check your phone, which is exactly what you just brought up, which I resonate with that a lot.
There's all sorts of different, this is physical life. We're brought up that way. When a lot of kids, and we see it in, bar fights. You said something I don't like. Bam! That is my gut reaction. That is my knee-jerk reaction, is to punch you in the face. Well, obviously that's not healthy. And verbally, with political or religious debate, we run up against belief systems. And belief systems are hardly coded into the center of our brain, down in the amygdala, where it's exceedingly difficult to get somebody to change their mind if it is part of their belief system. Facts will not change your belief unless you have an open mind with that way of that kind of thinking. Scientists and engineers, we're on each other's ass all the time about, you're wrong, that's fucked. No, yeah, but we sort of embrace it, because it makes everything better ultimately. And most people, if you attack their beliefs, you're attacking their identity. So how do you get through that? You get their own mental immune system to learn how to pause for a couple of 100 milliseconds before they strike out back in a visceral mode.
So referring that to the technology addiction young individuals may be facing, is taking that moment is so crucial to disconnecting.
I look at the addiction slightly differently, because, boy, is that deeply ingrained. Humans are addictive by nature. That is part of our hard-coded 50,000-year-old thing. And what social media and reward systems and all of that are doing are taking advantage of who we fundamentally are. There is a book, and I forgot the name of it, and I should know it, that is Silicon Valley's now Bible for investment. And fundamentally it says, if you were going to bring us a product, service, technology for us to invest in, it damn well better be really addictive. Otherwise, we're not interested.
Yeah, right.
And that is preying on us as human beings. So I look at that problem, or the solution set for that, slightly differently. And I believe that, if you remember the drug, no, you're too young. Back in the 80s, they would say to the drug culture, drug addiction, just say no.
Yeah, I remember that. That's still the same.
Addiction is not something you can just say no to. It is a body, it's a disease, and all. Same thing that we're seeing with the disease of addiction to technology today, especially when the technology creates a feedback to you that releases a feel-good chemical to the brain. So my question is, have all of our country's leaders embraced addiction for their entire population? Do they approve of that? Or, as what they say today with drug addiction, is end the cycle. End the cycle. In technical terms, I'd say cut the feedback loop.
Right, okay. So where do you see this all going in the next 5-10 years with the whole attention crisis and the feedback.
Geez, I'm worried about the next 12 months. 5 to 10 years, boy, I normally can do a pretty good job of predicting, but I don't want to go that far in this one. There are a number of entities and people around the world right now who are trying to coalesce a movement, a group, an effort, an endeavor to really get this out in front of policymakers, the enterprise, or the people, the enterprise security people, are ones that are going to really perhaps be the strongest and most financially motivated to get involved in it. Nation states should care about it. And here's an interesting piece of data, and I'll ask you the question. Let's take the UK and EU, and I'm just calling it one because I don't like Brexit. We'll just call them one environment. Then we have the US. In the UK and EU, how many publicly funded misinformation, disinformation, critical thinking, enhancement research projects are being done and being funded right now?
I have no idea.
Somewhere between, depending upon how you count it, between 300 and 1,000. To the tune of roughly 5 million euros. That is largely 80% funded by the public sector.
Right.
In the United States, how many programs do we have?
I'm going to guess 0.
Yeah. An awful lot of them started being shut down in March of 2022 by very conservative political forces who began legal action and doxing and all the evil stuff that you can do against universities and against private organizations who were doing research into this, because critical thinking and free thinking is the antithesis of many political forces today.
Why do you think that's the case?
Why? Because free thinking means that you no longer believe the narrative that is being told you. And whether that's your country, my country, they're all lying. Everybody's lying one way or another. And one of my new edicts is trust nothing, verify twice. And when we look at the politics, and we'll say here in the States, I mean, there's an incredible amount of crap that's coming out by certain political forces. And those are the same ones that decide, no, anything that you want to do to allow critical thinking, that's censorship. And they upended it and weaponized many of the terminologies that are used in cognitive defense, unfortunately. So we have to get our way through that. A lot of my work now is done in the EU and in the UK because they're really open to it. And here in the States, we have a couple programs that have not been kicked off yet that we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, because I feel there's not much stuff that I'm aware of in Australia in the fact of that cognitive security. It's definitely underspoken or not spoken about at all.
It's new. I have no doubt that your military and intelligence services are at least read into what the issues are just because of Five Eyes. If nothing else, they know what Five Eyes is doing. NATO is heavily involved in it in order because of some of the shit that's going on in Europe right now. Finland teaches cognitive defense starting in preschool.
Wow.
And they do it using traditional fairy tales, traditional education stuff, then ask questions and get the kid, is Little Red Riding Hood, is that wolf real? Is that wolf gonna, no, that's not a real wolf. It's just a play wolf. How do you know? And teaching kids some of the early critical skills of don't believe all the BS that's coming your way because 95% of it is BS. And they started to build that into their systems. Sweden has a psychological defense agency now for their entire country, and there's NATO's working on it. So there's a lot of effort for that from the Aussie side. I don't know. Your job is to do a report and get it to me, please.
Yeah, 100%. How big of a deal or risk is this truly to the younger generation growing up now, do you feel?
Current studies with traditional cybersecurity have shown that the younger generation, and we'll go, millennials, some, and all the way down to the alphas, which my grandson is. He's an alpha. Are much more likely to fall for traditional cybersecurity scams, phishing attacks. Those studies have been, pretty well. I'm not saying absolute, but the tendency is that those guys are much more liable to be victims. The best reason that people are coming up with right now is that they become inured to it. They're immune to that. There's a difference. Oh, this is just a toy. Of course I can use it. I mean, how much harm can? And they've grown up with it, and it's so much a part of their daily life that for it to be viewed as or treated as something that's potentially hostile, it was breaking through another belief system.
What do you feel we need to do moving forward for the younger generation to break free? Is it simply being aware, like you were saying?
The brain, everybody's brain is totally different, but we have the fundamental same operating system, if you will, for lack of any other word. The techniques of mental inoculation, creating that pause, allowing people to take that 200 milliseconds or 10 seconds to think. I mean, imagine you have lawyer shows down there, probably not as bad as ours, and then there's some guy cross-examining somebody on the stand. I want an answer now. Yes or no? Yes or no? What is it? What is it? And what they are doing is absolutely shutting down your thinking part of your brain.
Right.
It's the same process, roughly, the same process of trying to get the mental immune system to recognize upon a stimulus, and if that stimulus causes an alert. You're walking down the street, you hear a horn blaring. All right, your automatic fast System 1 is what it's called, is doing two things. One, it's shifting attention. Number two, it's going straight to your ears, and your ears are making a judgment as to how far or close that sound is. All of that happens at about 350 to 400 milliseconds, and then you take an action. And if it's really, really loud, you're jumping your ass out of the way of the car. But we are tuned for survival. That is the only thing the brain is designed for, is survival of the rest of this mess. So the process is the same. You get alerted to something. It's a surprise. Magic tricks are another perfect example. You look at magic tricks, you know it's bullshit. But the paradox in your brain starts twisting. And most people, my daughter will go, no, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. And she'll just run off. And so I was like, how the fuck did they do that? And then we'd sit and have a beer and try to figure it all out. So it's getting curiosity. It's trying to get that going earlier, not believing everything, being willing to go sensory quiet. Just by even closing your eyes, you cut off 85% of your sensory input. 85% of it comes through your eyes. So quiet thinking and all that kind of, you could go woo-woo stuff if you want, but there is some great, great science behind the fact that calm thinking is good for you.
Does that reflect meditation as well? Like meditating, does that help your attention process, if that makes sense?
Meditate. I want to avoid getting into things that have become controversial. Believe it or not, meditation became religiously controversial in some places in the U.S. because that would be teaching, I don't know, some Hindu religion instead of Christianity. I don't get it. From my standpoint, meditation is a self-healing medication. It's like sleep. It's just a different. I mean, sleeping is resetting. It's getting the brain to do and get rid of the crap and what have you. meditation is just another technique. Is it perfect? There's a gazillion forms of it. But fundamentally, quieting down your sensory inputs and learning how to shut off some of the processing in your brain. I don't know if this happens for you, but my mother taught me this when I was 6 years old. If you have a problem at night and you can't figure it out, go to sleep thinking about that problem and you will wake up with the answer. It's not quite that binary.
Yeah.
But taking a problem and going, I'm just going to stick it back here for a couple days, works. It works. That's all. And those knee-jerk reactions tend to be towards survival of the ego and identity more than anything.
Yeah, okay. So how do you feel this whole attention crisis is affecting individuals' development into like self-development or becoming the better versions of themselves? Do you think that has an effect on the way they perceive the world these days?
The studies are showing that younger generation has so bought into and been addicted by the digital opioids, as I call them, that they're going to have probably a harder time than the people that are 40 and 50 who were and then my age, who didn't have that as our fundamental growing up. I mean, I grew up with analog stuff. We had dials and knobs and meters. You guys are growing up with this all. I mean, I got all my screens here, but this is. And for me, thankfully, this is me going down to my screens, and I can escape to a Kindle if I choose. Humans like to think if I'm multitasking and doing all sorts of stuff, right? There is no such thing as multitasking. It does not exist. The brain only thinks linearly. So if you are multitasking, the only thing you're succeeding at doing is failing and increasing the chance of failure for all of the other tasks you think you're multitasking at, because you're not. You're basically time slicing out your brain processing into sequential bits, and your efficiency goes way the hell down. So some of this is going to be done through education, some has to be done through awareness, some through experience. I believe a lot of it will happen through gamification.
What does that mean?
Gamification is turning all of these kind of things that we're talking about into games, into actual games. So your audience may care about one of the first games that came out, and it's called MIST, M-I-S-T. It's out of Cambridge University, and it's the Misinformation Susceptibility Test. And it's a simple test of how likely you are to fall for various kinds of misinformation. But it's not about current events, not about topical things that be controversial. It's about blue and pink bananas versus red bubble gum. I mean, just some insane stuff. And then sometimes the best lies have a grain of truth. So if it has a grain of truth and it sounds good, and in the cybersecurity world, you may or may not know that we are really known for being cruel when it comes to trolling each other. And it's, how much of my bullshit can I get you to believe?
Yeah.
And it's a game that we all enjoy, and it's fun to do. And I've done it on live podcasts, and I've told stories that are complete bullshit, but with one little tiny grain of truth. And I'll give you an example. And this is actually true. 3 weeks ago, I guess it is now, my son's partner, he runs a ski maintenance up at one of the lifts at the mountains in Lake Tahoe. And his girlfriend broke 15 bones and her face, and I mean, it was really a mess. And what had happened was the mountain that they're working on, it's a small mountain called Kirkwood, and they were experimenting. You know how when you go down a ski lift, and it's like the same run all the time?
Yeah.
So they were experimenting with autonomous AI-driven trees that would So at the middle of the night, the trees would move over some random position into the ski slopes to give it a different path every time. She made a mistake and didn't realize that it had changed from yesterday, wasn't paying attention, and ran into a tree.
Right.
That's it.
That's it.
How much of that is true?
It sounds pretty true to me.
Autonomous AI trees walking across ski slopes? Really, dude?
You never know these days. Like, there's been pretty crazy stuff.
That's the point.
Like,
thank you.
Yeah.
You never know these days. Trust nothing, verify twice. I've done this to people that are non-technical, people that are technical, and the people that are really technical immediately pause and going, what? How does that, and their first question is, I wonder how that works. Because that's the first curiosity thing that would be tweaked when we're trolling each other. I wonder how that works. But too many people go, oh shit, yeah, I know that AI stuff's really getting incredible. Wow, that's amazing. And they buy it. So you just experienced what I was talking about.
I was visualizing in my head. I'm like, how's that possible? But again, like, my head wasn't thinking, oh, this is fake, or questioning it. Just being like, oh, wow, that's crazy.
Trust nothing, verify twice.
Trust nothing.
Especially if you're interviewing me, and I've done this on a lot of shows, and it's worked every time.
Winn, I got one last question for you. If you could go back to your younger self with the knowledge you have now, what would you tell yourself, and would you do anything different?
You know, I've actually that question has been asking myself a fair amount as I've gotten older. And another way of phrasing that is, do you have any regrets? What would I do differently? The problem is, if I changed something, then I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing now. And I really like what I do. I really am very comfortable in my own skin with the extra 25 pounds. And it's like, did I make mistakes? Oh, shitloads of mistakes. Hell yeah. But people that would really want to change things tend to be those that are not very happy with their current circumstance.
Yeah, I feel that.
And I'm really happy with my current circumstance. I mean, what would I do with significantly more money? Now I have $100 million. What the hell am I going to do different? All right, I would update that Mac. Yeah. But again, a lot of people want that extra house on the Saint-Tropez and the house down in here, and they want all these things, and that's just never been me. I want all my tech. So I don't think I would really change a whole lot. Would I teach myself something? The biggest thing that I made mistakes at was thinking I knew it all.
Okay. Was this when you were younger?
Oh, it still is. No, there was, when I was learning how to play guitar as a kid, my mother and father were in the business, and hey, well, so-and-so will give you guitar lessons. And I said, no, I'm good. No, really, I'm good. And I have done that a few times throughout my life, and I definitely should not have. But do I regret it? Regret means I want to change what I got now. And I got what I got.
Exactly. Awesome. That's a very valid point, Winn. Just reflecting on that, like, that's a good question to ask. Like, do I have any regrets? Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Winn, for having this conversation around attention and the crisis we're currently having for young individuals. It's definitely a topic that's very valid to discuss these days, and that example of the ski slope was very eye-opening.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Thank you, Winn.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Thank you for your time. If this episode has resonated with you in any sort of way, I challenge you to share it with someone so they can benefit from Winn's insights as well. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this show below. It helps us grow our audience and to reach new people. This is the only thing I'll ever ask for you, and in return, I'll do everything in my best and everything in my power to continue improving this podcast every single day so that I can provide the content you all deserve. Thank you so much. Again, until next time, keep striving, keep growing, and remember, you are capable of incredible things. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. See ya.